Grayson Waller dropped a pipe bomb to start NXT tonight. He made a surprise appearance, and I certainly did not have that on my bingo card. He called Austin Theory Marty Jannetty. No, if anything, he's the Marty Jannetty, but neither of them are anywhere close to Shawn Michaels. And it's pretty cool that they mentioned Marty because I think he just went through an amputation to his leg. So that's pretty cruel that they would go and bring him and for him to still be catching strays right now. There's been a lot less unsuccessful wrestlers than Marty Jannetty. Anyway, he also referred to the New Day. He said their name, and the crowd kind of oohed when he said that. And then he wants to go after the NXT Championship. He buried TNA. Yes, there you go. That's your partnership, TNA. LOL TNA. And by the way, they just got like 300,000 viewers for their ratings. And it's kind of funny that right after that is when WWE decides to bury them. Like right after TNA gets their biggest viewership ever. Thanks to the Hardys, once again, their only draws. Anyways, he keeps going on. He reignited his feud with Shawn Michaels because if you recall, back when Grayson Waller was in NXT, he had a feud with Shawn Michaels, and that's going years back, but that was true. He had the Grayson Waller effect there. And then he really buries the NXT men's roster, as everyone does. It's funny because he really put over the woman, so it wasn't really a pipe bomb like he's attacking the company because he goes out of his way to put over the woman and how more successful they are than the men. And then he brings up how the men are like, he's saying they're all NIL recruits. They just go so they can have, they can put WWE Superstar in their bio and they can meet some woman in Orlando. Of course, I mean, the woman of Orlando, I think they should have higher standards than these fucking loser jocks just going to NXT for, I don't like these guys anyway. I'm glad he said that. I think a lot of people wanted to say that about these, the men's division, like the attitude they have. It's just a bunch of fucking NIL jocks who don't care about wrestling. And it's not like I want every single wrestler to be this, hardcore fan who always wanted their dream to be a wrestler. Some of the biggest stars in the history of the wrestling business didn't necessarily grow up as fans, but still, like these jocks, it's like they're just there. The person I thought was Cam Hendricks. That's right away. When he was ripping them, I immediately thought of Cam Hendricks because he's someone who he plays like his character is a Heisman. What the fuck is a Heisman doing wrestling? Why aren't you playing football if you're a fucking Heisman? If you're a Heisman, you're that good at it. Why aren't you in the NFL? You're the Heisman, right? I've never heard of a Heisman winner in college football. If you don't know, the Heisman Award is basically the MVP of college football for the season. So why aren't you in the NFL? Name me one Heisman award winner who was not in the NFL at least a year after he won the fucking trophy. Like, I hate that. I hate Cam Hendricks. He fucking sucks. Anyway, I had to bring that up. But then his mic would get cut. I'm talking about Grayson Waller here, and he would leave, and then they basically cut to commercial. It was designed, the ending, to replicate the CM Punk pipe bomb back in 2011, 15 years ago. So I guess it's paying homage to that. But, I mean, that was a much bigger deal. I mean, CM Punk compared to Grayson Waller. Come on. Anyway, when we come back from commercial break, Tavion Heights was talking to Miles Bourne backstage in the locker room, and then Mason Rook walked in. All of them were upset about what Grayson Waller said, burying the men's division. I thought this kind of was, like, I don't give a fuck about Mason Rook. Like, screw him. And we all know, I mean, Grayson Waller is not talking about Mason Rook. He's not talking about some independent wrestlers morbidly obese. He's talking about these fucking NIL jocks who get in there, who don't really care about wrestling, who are just there so they can have WWE wrestler under bio, superstar under bio, so they can hook up with women in Orlando. It's like, that's what he's burying the NIL program and a lot of the prospects and their attitudes. Had nothing to do with a guy like Mason Rook. Anyway, Lizzie Rain was out next, and Izzy Dame came out. We got Lizzie Rain against Izzy Dame. So Sean Spears stopped Nico Vance from interfering, and then it led to Lizzie pinning Izzy. Lizzie. So Lizzie won. Here's the thing. Izzy Dame, I don't look at her as a goth chick. Like, I just don't see her as this dark character with the culling with Sean Spears. I don't see Sean Spears as dark. I liked his best work, in my opinion, was when he was doing the Ty Dillinger Perfect 10. I've never seen him be Ty Dillinger. I don't buy her as this dark character. She's just hot blonde, chick. I think she's with Braun Breaker, if I'm not mistaken. But Izzy Dame, like, she's this jock, this blonde jock, good-looking woman, very attractive, blonde, and like, come on, like, she's not this dark gothic character. And she was the complete opposite. She looks like she's the head cheerleader. She's not goth. I mean, she's someone who should be more like Tiffany Stratton, but her gimmick is like Rhea Ripley. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Anyway, it kind of reminds me when Alexa Bliss was that dark character. I was never a fan of that. I just thought she was so much more like a lighter character because she gives off like that nice wholesome vibe, and I don't know. But I was never a fan of Dark Alexa, even though I really like Bray. But with Izzy, I'm just thinking to myself, she's more like a Tiffany Stratton than a Rhea Ripley, if you know what I mean. So, Cruz Montana was talking to two scrubs backstage. I don't give a shit about them. I don't care about that guy. No, I'm there. Why is he still there? Maybe he's a trainer, but like, I'm sick of seeing him on TV. And then Saquon Sugars walked in. I don't care about him. He has a face-to-face with Cruz, and then Kalani Jordan walked up to Cruz after Saquon left, and she told him about the unfair working environment. I like Kalani, but I hope they have more for her, and I hope she does better on the main roster than Sol Ruca does, or Sol Ruca has done so far, because she's not doing too well. The Vanity Project was in Robert Stone's office complaining about something, and then that loser, Keanu Carver, walked in. Who cares? After he leaves, Robert Stone gets a call from Grayson Waller. He's coming back, obviously. We got an NXT Underground promo from Lola Vice ahead of her match with Kendall Gray next week. And Lola, I thought, did very well here, not just because of how good she looks, but I just think in this environment, she does a better job of cutting a promo and talking than in front of the live crowd, where I think sometimes she can be nervous and, rush her words. Here, I thought she came off much better. I hate Cam Hendricks. He came out next. After the break, we went to Thea Hale and Jada Parker in the locker room, both of them celebrating Jada's win over Natty last week. They have a tag team match next week against Carmen Petrovic and Nikita Lyons. Miles Bourne was out next. We get the NXT North American Championship on the line. Miles Bourne defending against Cam Hendricks. I skipped through this shit. I hate Cam Hendricks. Bourne won with the zigzag. The Bourne again, but it's basically Dolph Ziggler zigzag. Then after the match Transits, dressed in a jean outfit, attacked Cam Hendricks. Then Tavion Heights celebrated with Miles Bourne as Hendricks was being attacked by Mass Transit. But then Vanity Project attacked them. They fought them off, and Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights stood tall. So no sign of a turn yet. I think there's going to be another turn. So maybe we're all waiting for Heights to turn on Bourne, but I think that's going to be put on the back burner for right now. But I think it'll happen eventually. Backstage, the beautiful Emily Agard, the gorgeous Emily Agard, she is incredible to look at, was interviewing Lizzie Rain after her win, and then she was eating KFC popcorn chicken. Emily ate some chicken too, and then Trish and Angels walked in. Look, I was not even paying attention to what he said. I was just looking at Emily the whole time. I'm glad she stayed on camera because she is just a gorgeous woman. OTM was backstage when Los Garza randomly appeared. They're teasing something with one of the OTM members churning. That's why I said that the Miles Bourne Tavion Heights breakup, that's being set back. That's being postponed because OTM is going to be breaking up soon. They're going to do a big churn. Backstage, Zari and Ren Sinclair talked about talking to Robert Stone's office, arguing. They set up a match with them, and it's going to be a speed match. And if Zarya loses to Ren in the speed match, Ren gets a title shot for the Women's North American Championship. Birthright was out next, and OTM was out. We get OTM and Birthright. Birthright won. Los Garza messed up the match. So, as I said, a heel turn is coming. One of them is going to turn. We got an NXT focus on Kendall Gray. She mentioned training with her dad and Julius Creed ahead of the NXT Underground match next week against Lola Vice. That's going to be a big match. And neither Kendall or Lola appeared on the show, and it made sense. They're both training. It's an Underground match. I'm looking forward to it next week. And by the way, I thought NXT was a good show tonight. I enjoyed it. So backstage, Izzy Dame, Callie Armstrong, and Kalani Jordan were all arguing in the locker room. All of them want opportunities. And Rena Falcone walked by. Can't call her Nikki Blackhearts, even though it's an awesome name, but she just walked by and making a comment how, things always change and stuff. Michelle Hill was out next, and then Trish and Angels came out next. We got Shyla Hill against Trish and Angels. Match sucked. I hate both gimmicks. Shyla got the win. We see Cruz Montana in the back heading to the ring, and then the announcers preview next week's show. And actually, I forgot to mention, when they preview next week's show, they announce more matches, but of course the focus is on the Underground. And then finally, to end the show, what we're all waiting for, Cruz Montana, the former Mike Santana, spoke to the NXT crowd after he literally walked through them for his entrance. He has a special crowd entrance. I really like the tribute to Chony Montana. That's obviously what his name is inspired by. I think Cruz is a tribute to his dad, and I just have to assume Montana. He loves Chony Montana, the character of Scarface played by Al Pacino. He cut a babyface promo. Of course, he referred to AEW. He didn't mention it, but he's obviously referring to them. And then he put over TNA. He called out Grayson Waller after what he said earlier, and then Tony D'Angelo came out. They went back and forth, but then Grayson Waller came out from behind and he shoved Santana into D'Angelo, and then they're all fighting. Santana accidentally clotheslines Tony D'Angelo by mistake, and then Grayson Waller just leaves the ring. Tony D'Angelo was upset with Mike Santana, and then the announcers would preview next week's show again, hyping up the Underground match with Kendall Gray and Lola Vice. They're probably going to get a good rating next week because they've been hyping up that match really well. So that's how NXT ended tonight. To be honest, I enjoyed NXT. I mean, maybe it's because Raw was such a fucking embarrassment last week, one of the worst Raws of the year. I didn't realize how bad Raw was, but looking back, last night's Raw was atrocious. So I guess it was refreshing having an NXT show that was at least watchable. And I thought this was actually a good NXT show tonight.